Welcome to the Net Profit Podcast with Ryan Kibler, your net profit CFO, helping business owners like you grow their net profit one episode at a time. And now your host, Ryan Kibler.
Well, hello and welcome to another episode of the Net Profit Podcast. I am very excited for today's episode. We have Lamell McMorris with me. Lamell grew up on the Chicago South Side, where persistence is an absolute necessity. And he went on to build Phase 2 Consulting, really working with members from Forbes 100 companies, executives, helping them with leadership and persistence. Lamell, thank you so much for taking the time and coming on the show.
Ryan, thank you for giving me the time. It's an honor to be here. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Well, I gave a kind of a short background there, but would love for you to kind of paint us a picture and give us more of the details. I mean, tell us a little bit about how you got to where you are today, published author, and really working with executives in the space that you work in.
Ryan, you know what's interesting? I am literally talking to you right now from the basement of my childhood home. In addition to the Power to Persist book that just came out a week or so ago, I have the Power to Persist podcast. And my premise there is to, have conversations with individuals that really exemplify some of the habits around resilience that I talk about in the book. But the real deal is, if I'm going to talk to Ryan about his resilient journey, I wanted to do it from a place where my resilient journey authentically started. And so we're literally on the south side of Chicago right now in the basement of my childhood home. My mom is right upstairs. And I mentioned that not just to publicize the Power to Persist podcast, but your question around how the journey started for me, and I think for most people, is not always a straight line, but there is a line from where I'm speaking to you right now to everything that I've done. I've always been the kid at the table with adults paying attention to political and public policy issues. I've always been the kid growing up here on the south side of Chicago that could tell you what was happening in the news. I got the perfect score on all my current events exams. So that line from being a kid engaged in impact and around impactful leaders is a direct line to what I'm doing today in Washington, D.C., having started a government relations consulting firm, Phase 2 Consulting, in 2002, working with Fortune 500 corporations and influential and impactful leaders, advising them around their work and how they make a positive impact in the communities and with customers that they serve. And I've kind of always been, that person who believed in the power of advocacy, whether it's advocating on behalf of my clients or advocating on behalf of the issues that I'm concerned about. But it all started right here. Now, lefts, rights, ups, downs. But like you, I think we all, and like a lot of your listeners, the line may not necessarily be straight, but there is a line from, I think, who we are and how we start out with a lot of growth, a lot of changes. But I'm still the kid who grew up right here at 66 in Cottage Grove.
Love that. Love that. Nothing like going back to your roots. Love that. Mm-hmm. And definitely, resonate with just growing up and I think being more mature than your age, probably. And
I think my friends would say that.
Yep. And just like resonating and just, being present and being, in tune with what's going on, even though, you're just childhood age or getting into teens, things like that. I definitely resonate with that. And I think that's a good thing. Everybody says don't grow up too fast, but sometimes I think it has its benefits.
I think it's been important and actually just a fundamental part of who I've been. To your point, my buddies used to joke after school, typically, especially in high school, kids would go, before they go do homework, they may go to the mall and have fun. And they would look at me and say, well, we're going to the mall, but we know you have a meeting. And, I did. I had a briefcase. I probably had a suit on. I was always going to engage in what was going on in the city and around town. So
love it. And we're definitely going to get into the book and the power to persist, man. Got to resonate with so many business owners. and leaders. We deal with so much adversity, so much, things just don't go as planned. Things are
Absolutely.
unpredictable in business. But I want to start out with the 8 habits that, you've really picked out. And this is in the book on things that you've really got to do to persist and be successful, I would say. And I want to start there, so the 8 habits, I'll list them and then we can kind of go into them.
Mm-hmm.
Attitude, work ethic, agility, vulnerability, network, focus, dog determination, and faith.
Mm.
How did you narrow in on those 8? I mean, what kind of a process did you have to get to that?
So what's interesting, and like many, I didn't set out to write a book, but over the course of our journey, and particularly as entrepreneurs, as you stated, we have ups and we have downs, and people would ask the question, how do you keep going? How do you keep moving forward? And so the book is an answer to that question with, putting a mirror up to just some very practical, real ways that I've been able to persist, both, Ryan, through the victories and the losses. I think when people think about resilience, they typically think about the headwinds, the challenges, the adversity. But it's hard to remain resilient even when you're winning as well, and even when you're on top there. And so it goes both ways. And so I took a look at my life, and then I had a chance to take a look at, and observe some other leaders and just regular people who are going about trying to, maintain and keep going. And these 8 habits, you talk about the importance. I kick off the book talking about attitude. Without an attitude to continue to move forward with, which means a positive one, knowing fully well that everything is not going to always go how we plan. We're going to lose some contracts. We're going to lose some business. Like me, sometimes you're going to get fired. You're going to have a bad business partnership. But there's something about maintaining a positive attitude through it all that allows you to continue to propel and go forward in spite of the odds. So I thought it was important to kick off the book talking about attitude. Work ethic, Ryan, I've just found in my life and through other leaders I've observed. And frankly, I dedicated the book to my mom because she has really been the greatest example of resilience for me. When I think about my mother, I think about a phenomenal work ethic. I was a latchkey. I was at home a lot because my mom was working 2 and 3 jobs. And, beyond the sociological implications of that, the example of my mother working, and then the other examples, Ryan, there are people who are taller than us. There are people who are better looking than us. There are even people who are smarter than us. But my mission has always been that no one is going to outwork me. And I just find that a work ethic is a very critical component. A good work ethic, a strong work ethic is a very critical component when it comes to being able to persist and resilience.
Yeah, I love that. And I think, you get a strong work ethic in today's world is not common.
Yes.
It's not always easy to find. So I think that does set yourself apart. But I also think, if you're just set in that no matter what happens, I'm going to try to stay as even keel as possible with the attitude, right? Not get too highs in the highs, too lows in the lows. Good and bad things are going to happen. And then you just go to work. And no matter what happens, and there's probably times where, like for me, I would say at a minimum, like I'm 85% all the time, right? Like just 85% of everything that I got, right? And then there are times where it's like, okay, it's time to, we built some momentum here. It's time to mash the gas and just get to 100%, right?
Indeed.
And you just get after it, right? And no matter what happens, like just sticking with that, even if you're winning and doing well, right?
Hey, Ryan, you know what happens though? The other good thing about a powerful and strong work ethic is You don't have to, feel the need to speak all the time. You don't have to feel like you got to be in front of the crowd and at a podium, and given your work actually begins to speak for you.
Yeah.
So much so that people will see your work before they recognize your personality, whether they're hear about it, your reputation, or just watching you. I tell folks that the greatest sermon that I could ever give is when I don't open up my mouth. Especially as a business owner, a leader in a corporation, you can preach, you can talk. At the end of the day, the people that look up to you, the people that follow you, the people that you're leading are going to follow your actions.
Yeah. And I think that's how people come out of nowhere, right? And people start believing in like overnight successes, but they just worked. They got after it. And I think being the person that does that, it also takes the pressure off, because you don't, like you said, I mean, you don't have to speak, right? You don't have to motivate others, just in your actions and what you're doing. You don't have to do anything else. It's, you're working the grind, and, that speaks for itself and takes the pressure off.
Yeah, a wise person told me, Ryan, a long time ago, it's hard to lead from behind. I've never seen anyone be able to lead from the rear.
Yeah.
In order to lead, you've got to be the one that's there early. You got to be the one that stays later. You have to be the one that goes the extra mile. That's how leadership is defined.
For sure. Yeah, let's get into agility and vulnerability next. Talk a little bit about that. I think, yeah, go from there. What's in the book on that?
So think about it, to your listeners, yourself. When I've hit a brick wall, be it firing or a business literally ripped from beneath me, that's when you've got to be agile. That's when you've got to be quick. You got to be able to move and be decisive. Listen, we all hurt. We all are human. We have feelings, but you can't stay there, right? The ground is no place for a champion, I was told, right? You have to get up, pick yourself up, figure out a game plan, and figure out how to go forward. When I lost my business and a business partnership, let's see, about 9 years ago. And I had a couple of choices at that point, but not many. It was either, shutter or go forward. I had less than 24 hours to move my office, maintain my relationships with my clients, get my team in place to go forward, and literally rename, rebrand. You've got to be agile. You've got to be nimble, because we never know, a lot of times where the headwinds are going to come in. And most of the times, we don't get a memo saying that a trial or tribulation is on the way. Get yourself ready, get prepared. It's not like a natural disaster. Someone's going to come on television and a ticker tape is going to come. You've got 24 hours before this storm hits. No, the ability to be agile and to demonstrate agility means you've got to be prepared and be open to pivots, those expected, but especially those unexpected. Vulnerability is perhaps, out of all the habits that I raise here, that I struggle with the most, because, Ryan, you know this, society tells us that we've got to put on, this good face, this strong face, that everything is okay. When in fact, I found that letting people know that I don't understand, letting people know that I am going through a trial and some tribulation, admitting to people that, I'm not perfect as the leader that I'm trying to be, actually is liberating, Ryan. And it gives others who are trying to bring along or lead the freedom to do the same. And so rather than pushing people away, I found that levels of vulnerability actually pull people towards me. Folks in business, people I'm trying to do business with, people I'm trying to get on my team and to stay on my team. So, it's tough, right? Because we're in charge. We're supposed to lead. How in the world can I demonstrate that I'm struggling too and that I'm going through something? But it's something about that that's authentic, that's real. The pedestal that people, try to put themselves on and others put us on, doesn't become as high. It doesn't become as easy to knock you off of something when you actually can identify with how other people suffer, and they can also identify with your suffering.
For sure. For sure. I mean, the reality is nobody has it all together.
No.
No, I mean, if somebody tells you that they do, they're lying, right?
Absolutely.
And, I look at this vulnerability piece, and without it, and without some good transparency, there's no room for mentors. And,
That's right.
I mean, I really look at my career and my journey, and there's no way that I would be where I am today and the success that I do have in business without mentors. No way. No way possible.
No doubt about it. I mean, we've had to have individuals, and I think that gets us quickly to some of the next habit. When you talk about mentorship, I tell people your network can equal your net worth. And but it's not simply, a network is the habit. It's not simply, seeing Ryan at a business reception and exchanging business cards. No, it's the actual hard and difficult work of now going a step beyond that and cultivating a relationship with Ryan, where Ryan and I are invested in each other. When my mentors and folks who know me in business, you want to know the first question they ask me, Ryan, is not how my profits are. Not the first question that many, if not all, of the folks that I do business with, my network and I relate to, the first person and the first thing they ask about is my mother. That's nice. But what it messages and symbolizes to me is that our relationship has gone beyond simply just, how we feed off each other and keep each other in business and how I grow. Some people have literally invested in my livelihood. If you ask about my mom, that means we have been in the trenches together. You actually have insight into my life, and you know the very thing that is the most important to me. And that means I probably have some insight into your life. And that means we are vested and in each other's success in business and personally.
Yeah. Love that. Love that. Yeah. Power in a network. And I think when you get out and experience that, it's amazing what happens. You put together a good network, you build relationships where you really care about each other. It's amazing when all of a sudden you have a need for something and your network just produces it, right?
Indeed.
And there's just no, I don't know, there's no substitute for that. There's there's nothing else that can replace that. So
yeah, I just really caution, especially young people, who are in business school and college, et cetera, that, networking on the surface can be superficial. It's the power of building and cultivating relationships that help you be resilient and lead to success in business.
For sure. For sure. Well, next, we got three more kind of to talk about and discuss here. Focus is the next one. And I'm sure we both have a lot to say here, but dive into why you picked focus in the top 8.
Yeah, because one, I found, and I hope some of your listeners can, and you can identify with this, it's hard to stay focused. It's just bottom line, especially when you're in business, right? Because I found that as an entrepreneur, we're used to, and open to making things happen. But a wise mentor told me a long time ago, he said, Lamell, if you're not careful, you're going to be perceived as a gadfly. Ryan, I didn't even know what gadfly meant at the time. I said, well, what are you talking about? What's a gadfly? He said, I mean, you're here, there, and everywhere. He said, at some point, you've got to stay still and demonstrate that you can build something. Whew. At the time, I was, way younger than I am now, and it actually legitimately flew over my head. But when I started my business in 2002, I found that the power of staying focused and disciplined and actually building, keeping the main thing, after I was able to do that, I then had a foundation to pivot and do other things. But you can't have you can't have the cart before the horse. Like you've got to, in order You can't be open and be every. You got to stay focused on the main. And so that after I was able to establish and build myself in Washington, D.C., around what I went to do there, government relations consulting, then when an opportunity to go into sports came, I had a foundation to kind of pivot off of. And so I launched a sports agency just by virtue of a relationship. And I ended up in the sports. Then I come home a few years, after that, and I look across the street and around my neighborhood and I see vacant lots. And these are some of the same vacant lots that I started when I was a kid. And I determined that, what, I could talk about it, but I define an entrepreneur, Ryan, as somebody that goes on top of a building, jumps off and figures out what's going to happen when they, as they're on their way down. And so I didn't know anything about real estate development, but I determined that I wanted to impact, but I couldn't do any of that unless I'd establish myself first in my core business. And, staying focused and being disciplined is not easy, but there's power in that building, demonstrating that we can build something that opens up doors to other opportunities for us to pursue.
For sure. I mean, there's so many shiny objects in business. And as an owner, hundreds of things you could be doing every day. A good mentor of mine, do you want to move 10 items forward 10%, or do you want to move one item forward 100%?
Yeah, boy, say that again. That's
He asked me, do you want to move 10 items forward 10% or one item forward 100%? And I think that goes to what you were saying of you got to keep the main thing, and you've got to build a good foundation there. I'm sure you've talked with owners. I've talked with owners where it's like they tell you, well, I do this, this, and this, and this, and they're trying to run 4 businesses at one time.
Yeah.
And in my head, I'm like, okay, good luck. And I'm sure right now that's really unsuccessful for you, right?
Yeah.
And they're not moving that one thing forward 100%, and their attention is divided. And naturally, I mean, division is not a good thing. So yeah, focus, really important.
I'll go a step further because I really want to use my journey to help. The foundation, staying focused, building something. But in the things that I'm doing, the businesses that I've launched, whether it's Greenlining Realty USA, going at the historic practice of redlining and trying to build and invest in underserved communities, or the work I do in Washington, D.C., of trying to help Fortune 500 companies at the through line, and even, launching the podcast and being on with you. I hope what people see is the connective through line of advocacy. I believe you can do good, Ryan, and make money at the same time. I've tried to connect who I told you I started out as a kid here on the south side of Chicago, being engaged with my entrepreneurial endeavors. Does that make sense?
For sure.
I'm not saying to your listeners, be and do like me exactly what I did. What I'm suggesting is, even if you do start multiple businesses, look for and ensure that there's connective tissue to who you are and who you've been. That this business over here makes no sense for this business over here and this business. At least make them make sense.
Yeah.
That there's alignment around purpose, around impact, around what you're doing, in addition to desire to build and grow and make revenue and grow a business.
Yeah. And there's a part in there that you said that you believe you can make change and do good and make money at the same time.
They don't have to be mutually exclusive.
For sure. Love that. Love that philosophy. And I believe that myself. The work that I do here, I think, is the same. And I think as business owners, we don't talk about that enough, right? I think as business owners, of course, we want to get out on our own. We want to control our time. We want to control what we can make.
Indeed.
And at the same time, it's also, sometimes we see a need and we can do something better than most others are doing it. And we can do good and make the living that we want to.
Indeed.
For sure. All right, let's talk about determination, dog determination.
Oh, let me tell you. So this one shouldn't need a lot of explanation to you or to your listeners. And it really is connected to most of the other habits that we talked about, attitude and vulnerability. But when all else fails, when everything looks bleak, or there you have that temptation when you've hit a successful moment and you want to kick up your feet and beat your chest about how great you are, there has to be this thing called determination. And not just determination, but a dogged determination that no matter what, even though I can't see it, I can't feel it, I don't know how, I'm tired, I'm broke, I've got business issues, we have had these moments where we've had to reach deep down into a well. And I'm suggesting it's that dogged determination, in spite of what naysayers are saying, in spite of what the market is saying, in spite of what you're reading, it's that dogged determination to keep going forward that as business owners and as leaders and just as individuals helps us ride through and be resilient.
For sure. Love that. I mean, and I think about, the big common things that we have today, right? Like, what if those inventors would have quit? Right? Like, what does our life look like if they would have gave up? I'm a firm believer where there's a will, there's a way, right? And very, very similar.
By the way, how many planes had to be flown, right? How many times did they have to fly a plane before it actually flew, right? How many almost getting electrocuted light switches did you, right? Before you could finally make this thing called electricity and lights work. I mean, the list goes on and on. Yeah, you got to be determined, and you've got to know that this is going to happen, and I'm going to make it happen.
For sure. And I think a lot of times the biggest battle's between the ears, right? Boy. You got to set your mind to it, and you got to be determined around it, and you'll make it happen.
Yeah, no doubt about it.
All right, last one is faith.
Yeah, notice I kick off the habits talking about attitude, but I end with faith. And Ryan, this is not an attempt to be overly religious, but it is a reflection and connected to all the other habits, and is a demonstration of how I've been able to continue and to go forward. So in my faith tradition, faith is defined as the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things not seen. Now, I know that can sound like some far out theory, but in fact, as business owners, we're living that because we can't see most of the things we're working on. We don't really know they're coming to fruition, and we're working towards outcomes that we can't feel and aren't necessarily tangible, but we keep going. We have a product we're trying to sell. We have an offering that we're trying to get in front of a corporation and a business. We can't see it, but we know we have this faith that it's going to work out, that these folks are going to buy this product, that this business deal is going to be successful. But watch this. I'll go a step further, Ryan. When you and I actually get to the point and believe that we are the substance of things hoped for, and we are the evidence of things not seen. I don't know about you, but for my ancestors, my grandparents that I've never met, my great-grandparents that I never met, I don't think they ever could imagine that I would be able to do the things that I get to do. I don't think they ever imagined that you and I could have this kind of conversation around business principles in the way that we can with technology and speak hundreds of thousands of miles away. So there's something about embracing that mindset and that attitude that gives us the fortitude and the courage to keep going in spite of and despite of the odds. And I think that faith is a serious and major component and has been for me on my resilient journey.
For sure. Definitely resonate with that one as well. Love it. Love it.
Yes, sir.
So The Power to Persist, highly, highly recommend that my audience goes and picks that book up. We just went over the 8 habits that are part of the book. And then I want to get to, what led you to write this book? And what are you really looking for readers to take away out of it?
So I did not start out with the goal of writing a book. This journey started by trying to answer the question that I would get asked over and over is, how do you keep going? What do you do to keep moving? How do you stay the way? And so that led to this process of both looking at my life and some of the habits that I've tried to live by, and also then talking to other business leaders, folks who are, not having gone through, but literal, they're going to be some examples in the book that your readers will see of people who are in the middle of tragic and trials and tribulations. And so taking a little bit from all of those individuals led to this offering. And it really is about, yes, are we excited that we're an Amazon bestseller right now? Yes. Are we excited that this book is a USA Today bestseller? But to your question, the point and the goal is really to help people and to make an impact and to actually start and ignite a resilient movement so that it's not just personal, but it begins to be familial, community, and in business organizations, this notion and this embrace of how to stay and keep on a resilient journey.
Love that. Love that. And like I said, I highly recommend for my audience to go out and pick up the book. Congratulations on Amazon bestseller, USA Today bestseller.
Thank you.
Love to hear those things. Those are great accomplishments. That's awesome.
Thank you very much.
Lamell, I want to give you the opportunity. Where is the best place for my audience to go connect with you, find your book, and work with you if they wish to? Where's the best place for them to go to do that?
Ryan, I appreciate that. And I would love to continue to be in contact and to work with your listeners. www.lamellmcmorris.com, www.lamellmcmorris.com. We can also be found at Lamell at Phase 2, www.phase2-consulting.com. The book, The Power to Persist, is available everywhere books are sold, as well as the Power to Persist podcast.
Love that. Love it. Yes. And definitely, obviously, you're tuning in, you're listening to this podcast. If you love podcasts, go and check out the Power to Persist podcast. And again, Lamell, I just want to thank you for the time today and
thank you
taking the time out and being a guest on the show.
Ryan, thanks for having me. And next time you're in Chicago, we have to get you over to the Power to Persist podcast studio.
You got it. You got it. Well, thank you everyone for tuning in. And until next time, everybody, go and accelerate your profits. See ya.
Thank you for listening to the Net Profit Podcast with Ryan Kimler. Make sure to subscribe or follow the show on your favorite podcast app. Don't forget to check the show notes for our guest contact information and to connect with Ryan on his website, netprofitcfo.com.